Multiplication equations. Our first example on today's notes has to deal with the following model. It says 3 apples balance 12 grapes. How many grapes will balance 1 apple? Well, in this case, we're looking for what each one of these represents. So that means essentially I'm splitting this into 3 groups. So I need to split this into 3 groups, which means 1 apple must equal 4 grapes. And then the next thing we're going to be looking at is the same problem with algebra tiles. So we're going to represent the problem. I'm going to represent my apples as x. There were 3 x's. So 3 apples. And the grapes are going to represent positives, and there was 12 of them. So with algebra tiles, that would look like 3 x's, and then your balanced scale with 12 grapes. It didn't do what I wanted it to. Okay. So what does 1x equal? Well, again, this is the same thing as us splitting this into 3 groups. So when I split this into 3 groups, I should have 4 in each group. So basically, that means that when I took my 3x equal to 12, I divided by 3 because I was dividing this into 3 groups, and I divided this side into 3 groups, which told me each x equaled 4, or each apple equaled 4 grapes. So we're going to represent these with algebra tiles, and then we'll solve. So we have 2 x's equal to 10 positives. Okay, so here, and that didn't want to do what I wanted it to, so again, so to solve for this problem, we need to take our x's and divide them into 2 groups, which means we also have to divide this side into 2 groups. So each x has to equal 5. The next one I'm just going to draw because it takes less time. So here's an x, 2, 3, 4. But then I have -8 on the other side. So since I have 4 x's, I need to split them into 4 groups, which means I need to take my -8 and split those into 4 groups. So each group gets -2. Then I have 16. And I have 4 x's. So again, I'm going to take these 4 and split it into 4 groups. So I need to take these 16 and split it into 4 groups, which means each x equals 4. My last one says I have 3y's equal to 9. So I need to split that into 3 groups. Therefore, 3 groups, which means each y equals 3. So stepwise, we're going to take those exact same problems and we're going to work on the steps. So the first one was 2x equals 10. And what we did with that was we needed to get rid of this. So how do we undo multiply 2? With divide 2. And if you think about back to the model, we divided those two x's into 2 groups. So we have to divide that into 2 groups, which gives me x equals 5. The second one was 4x equals -8. So I had to divide it into 4 groups on each side, which gave me x equals -2. Number 3 was 16 equals 4x, which I divided into 4 groups on each side, so 4 equaled x. And the last practice problem we had was 3y equals 9. So I had to divide each side into 3 groups, which gave me y equals 3. And this is how you would show me your steps. Okay. So it says Mrs. Acosta's car can travel an average of 24 miles on each gallon of gas. Write and solve an equation to find how many gallons of gas she will need for a trip of 348 miles. So what we're looking for is x equals gallons of gas. So my gallons of gas is going to get multiplied by my 24 miles each, because it's 24 miles per gallon. So 24 miles per gallon should equal the total amount of gallons that I need. So to solve that equation, I'm going to divide each side by 24, which is going to give me, I believe, 14.5. So, yep. So my solution is 14.5 or 14.5 gallons. Next example says Brandy wants to buy a digital camera that costs $300. She's going to save $15 each week. In how many weeks will she have enough money for the camera? So X represents how many weeks saving, or you could have just said weeks saving. And that X is going to get multiplied by $15 because it's $15 each week. And that should give me my total cost of $300. Which to solve that, I need to divide both sides by 15, which tells me X is 20. So it will take her 20 weeks to save for that camera. So a few things to remember, an equation is a balanced scale. So to remain balanced, you have to do, if you do something to one side, you have to do it to the other side. To solve for the variable, you must isolate it, which means get it all alone. You do that by getting all the numbers on the opposite side of the equation as the variable. We use opposite or inverse operations to isolate the variable. So for example, if a number is added to the variable, you should subtract that number to get rid of it. That's all we got today. Make sure you're looking the next couple pages for your homework assignment.